Officials today to talk tariffs and trade.
This comes as another key trading partner, China, digs in on its trade battle with the U.S. Government officials in Hong Kong say its postal service will soon stop handling packages to and from the United States. A spokesperson for the Chinese Foreign Ministry says, quote, China does not want to fight, but it is not afraid of fighting.
Joining us now, NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung is with us. Brian, how is China specifically responding to these tariffs? I know they've laid out a few things that might affect us here in the U.S.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've responded as they promised over the past few weeks. You'll recall a few weeks ago they said they would fight to the end, and that's exactly what they're doing. As the U.S. is building up their tariff walls, so is China. They are exporting the Hollywood movies going over to China. They are also saying that they are going to order companies to stop ordering new Boeing planes. They're also ramping up their tariffs in addition to export restrictions on rare earth minerals to the United States, which is a big deal. Now, when it comes to just the consumer-facing impact of all of this, yeah, you do have the 145% effective tariff on anything coming from China. Think about the toys, the clothing that we import from China in droves. That's going to get likely more expensive very soon because those tariffs are really starting to bite now. So again, these are things that consumers are going to expect to see. And as the kind of tariff conversation continues to heat up, you do wonder if this is just the beginning of those prices perhaps getting larger for consumers at the store.
And today we've been hearing from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. What did he have to say both about tariffs, but also the American supply chain?
Yeah, so the Federal Reserve, the nation's central bank, we look to them to see what they do with interest rates. But Jerome Powell, who's the Fed chair, also is basically seen as the leading voice on the economy. He was talking about the impact of tariffs, which he said were significantly larger than he expected. Take a listen.
As that great Chicagoan Ferris Bueller once noted, life moves pretty fast. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait for greater clarity before considering any adjustments to our policy stance.
Greater clarity on the policy of interest rates, which we'll have to see in a few weeks what they end up doing. But as he quoted, which he rarely ever does, someone as fun as Ferris Bueller, life does move pretty fast. So do the tariff policies, and we'll have to see if any of that throws the Fed off course and maybe it needs to force a interest rate change in their next few meetings. We'll have to see.
When is the next meeting for that?
It is 2 weeks from now.
Okay. Brian Chung, thank you.
Thanks. New developments today in the battle between the Trump administration and Harvard University.
On Truth Social this morning, the president called the country's oldest university a joke and said it should no longer receive any federal funds. Those comments come after the White House froze more than $2 billion in government funding to Harvard. The school is refusing to comply with a list of demands that the Trump administration had made as part of what the White House said was a broad review of allegations of anti-Semitism at universities across the country.
NBC News correspondent Rahema Ellis covers education, has been tracking all of this from outside of Harvard's campus. So, Rahema, I understand you just spoke to a researcher at Harvard about the expected immediate impacts of this funding freeze. What did she say?
She said what they're talking about has life and death consequences. When you do a funding freeze on research, their particular research is in tuberculosis, which she said takes 1 million lives, including lives here in the United States. And cutting off the funding means that we're working with primates in terms of their vaccines that they're trying to get together. It means now they can no longer continue doing that kind of work, including feeding and caring for these animals. And she said that has real life consequences. Take a listen.
Animals have to be fed, animals have to be cared for. There is no break in the care of these animals. But what it means is that you have to make a decision about whether you can continue this study. And what that means is you have to make a decision about whether you're going to euthanize the animals.
Whether you euthanize these animals, and she said there's also consequences. When the program shuts down, it could take almost a decade to get it restarted to the point where it is now.
And Rahema, Harvard isn't the only school, right, the Trump administration has been looking at. What are we seeing at other campuses?
Well, we're seeing it at other campuses, and some of those campuses, they're speaking out. At Stanford University, the president has written a letter in support of Harvard, and also at Yale University, professors have written in support of what Harvard is doing. Because there is this understanding of that those schools are engaged in research too. What happened here at Harvard, that fear could happen to them as well. Guys, back to you.
Rahema Ellis, thanks so much. Let's turn now to some more consumer news. Thousands of IRS employees are looking to leave their jobs.
And the LA Times is offering an alternative for readers who disagree with their op-eds. Angelica Peebles joins us now with today's CNBC Money Minute. Hi, Angelica.
Hey, Kate and Clay. Sources tell CNBC about 20,000 IRS employees are interested in accepting President Trump's latest deferred resignation offer to go on paid leave until the end of September. If they all take the offer, the IRS would shrink by about 20%. The agency said the number of employees leaving under the Trump administration is about the same as those added during the Biden administration. Retail sales spiked 1.4% last month to its strongest pace since January 2023, as shoppers raced to beat President Trump's tariff hikes. The Commerce Department reporting sales of cars and auto parts drove most of the sales, which was up 5.3%, but economists warn the jump in spending will eventually slow down. And if you don't like what a columnist has to say in the Los Angeles Times, you can read an opposing opinion generated by AI. Opinion pieces now have a button labeled Insights, which will give readers a summary and an assessment of the column's political leanings. The owner of the Times previously said he wanted the paper's opinion section to reflect different points of view. Guys.
All right, Angelica Peebles, thank you.